Hey everybody, it's been a while since I put up a cooking video and I thought I would put up another one. What I'm making tonight is a meat pie, and basically you can use really any form of meat, but kind of focusing on this with wild game, I'll be using deer. You could use elk, bear, caribou, whatever you got. It would work out pretty similarly. So anyway, show you how I make them. It's kind of a fun recipe and they're pretty darn good. So move on to the first steps. Okay, so the very first step is we got to make some dough, which is basically a simple pie dough. And what I have going here is 3 cups of just all-purpose flour, 2 cups of water, a cup of butter or margarine, you can use shortening, and this will end up being about a tablespoon of salt. So that's all we need for the crust, and we'll move on to making it. Okay, so we got our bowl of flour. What we're going to do is take our butter, shortening, margarine, whatever you got going. This is slightly softened. And we're going to mix it in with our flour. Get our tablespoon of salt in there, ballpark-ish. And then we're just going to cut this in with a fork, which we just kind of want that butter to be all kind of balled up and mixed in with our flour. And once we've got that good and incorporated, we'll move on to getting our water mixed in. Okay, so we got this kind of all beaded in, and I'll be perfectly honest, I am not much of a baker, so if you have a better pie dough recipe or you buy pre-sheeted or whatever, that's fine. So that part of it don't wait too much on, but this is how I make mine. So now I'm going to add in about half my water and start incorporating that water into it. And I do the dough first because you want to be able to have it set up, so I'll end up putting it in the fridge, you know, for 3 or 4 hours before I'm ready to actually make my meat pies. So our dough's all done. All I've done now is just kind of flour it. I'm going to put a little piece of saran wrap over the top of it and toss it in the fridge for probably around 2 hours. One quick side note on my water, I only ended up using about 1.5 cups. It just, dough came together. Like I said, that's kind of just a ballpark. So once you get to that consistency, that's what you're looking for more importantly than the recipe. But we'll get this in the fridge and we'll get on to the meat portion. Okay, so this is what we're going to need for our meat mixture. Once again, I'm going to save you the time of watching me chop onions. There's a cup of onions and 3 cloves of garlic that are chopped up. They don't have to be real pretty or anything because they're going to cook down to almost nothing here in this process. It's going to be some salt, probably about a tablespoon, rub sage, teaspoon, basil leaves, tablespoon, garlic powder. Actually, this is granulated garlic, but it says garlic powder on there. But anyway, 2 tablespoons of that, and 2 tablespoons of onion, and fresh ground black pepper. So all we're going to do is add that into our, which I'm using today's deer meat. This is actually stew. That'd be considered pretty tough, but we're going to let it cook for quite a while, or in my case, we're going to use a pressure cooker. So we're going to mix that up, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's all mixed. Okay, so we got everything in there, and basically I'm just stirring it around to try to get as evenly coated as possible. And we're going to move on to the cooking process on it next. So my next step is in my pressure cooker. I've got about 2 to 3 tablespoons of olive oil in there, and I want to get that really pretty hot because I want that meat to sear, and that's going to kind of help create some of the soupiness that goes around it. But anyway, if you don't have a pressure cooker, you can basically sear this off in a Dutch oven or in a pan, and then just do it in the oven or on the stove top. But basically what you're doing is you're cooking that meat down until it's going to be kind of a shredded consistency. Okay, our oil's good and hot. And grab our meat, and what you want to do once you get that in there is just let it sit where it lands. So you're going to get all your good sear from. Yeah, garlic and onion smells good. Okay, everything into the pot there. And we'll let those get good and seared. Okay, we got a nice sear going on here. And our next step is going to be to add some chicken broth. I'm using the chicken broth that I make. I've got a video up on it if you're interested in how to do it. But if you're buying one from the store, just get a lower sodium one and preferably high quality. This is going to be about the equivalent of 1 can. And that'll just deglaze all that goodness off the bottom. And what we're going to do next is we're just going to put our lid on here. Like I said, this is a pressure cooker. This takes about 4 hours in the oven. With the pressure cooker, it takes about 45 minutes to an hour, and that'll be all shredded and ready to go. So that's going to cook away, and we'll come back to get the meat pies put together. So this is how our meat mixture came out. It's actually just about perfect. It's got a little bit more fluid than I want it, so I'm going to just let it simmer for another couple of minutes and reduce and concentrate all those good flavors down, and then they'll be ready for the pastry. Okay, while our meat's kind of reducing, we're going to move on to our pie dough. Just pull this out of the fridge. And it's firmed up some, and we're just going to basically give ourselves a floured surface to roll it out on. And my goal here is to get this probably to about 1/8 of an inch thick. It'll take it probably at least a couple re-rolls, but just want to get it kind of spread out here. You can do it on a cutting board or countertops, at least in this part of the kitchen, are stainless, so countertops work pretty good too if you got a good surface. But we're going to stretch these out. Try and get it as even as possible. Again, it's not the end of the world, but it's kind of nice if they're consistent. Okay, once you got it all rolled out, what I use for a cutter is just a yogurt container, but it makes a nice size. And it's kind of like cutting biscuits, you know, you're just trying to get a pattern that gets as many cuts with as little trim as possible, because we're only going to re-roll this dough once. Okay, once we got them all cut out, we're going to transfer them over to a cookie sheet and just some non-stick spray on some foil or parchment paper or whatever you prefer using. But that at least keep them from sticking. Okay, we're moving on to our stuffing process. All you really need is a little cup of water and a fork. I did let my meat cool down a little bit, just so it's not piping hot when it goes in these. And all you're doing is grabbing a blob of meat, placing it in the middle, and just a very couple drops of water around the edges, which will help it seal up. Do it again once you folded it, and you roll them up. And then I usually just come in with a fork to kind of squish it down, make them look a little prettier. So, okay, the last little thing they get is just another little spritz of pan spray before they go in the oven. They'll be ready to go. Okay, we're going to preheat our oven for 350 degrees. If you've got a convection setting on your oven, it'll turn out better, but if not, just bake is just fine. And when that comes to temperature, we'll toss them in. Okay, they're out of the oven, nice and golden brown, looking pretty good. I didn't remember them taking that long. It was almost a half an hour to get them baked, but I think it'll be worth the wait. They look delicious, and that's all that really matters. So, hope you enjoyed. As always, thanks for watching. Have a good one.